And I think knowing that, you're right. We gotta make sure we talk to Purveyors, what is it? Purveyors of Pop, the
Purveyors of
production
Pop.
company, because that really is the feedback. That is what we all want to see with Lisa. And well, I was gonna say another thing, but we'll let it materialize, because I gotta tell you. So what we're gonna do today is we are going to do a segment called Flowers and Feedback. Okay. So Nate, I told you what flowers and feedback is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So flowers and feedback is because I noticed that, we want to make sure, yes, of course, the show has got some shady moments, anytime you watch Real Housewives of Miami, even the older seasons, everyone's got something to say, and that's what makes it fun. But sometimes, yes, it is about celebrating the women. And obviously I've said that a couple times, but that's what we're going to do today. So we have a segment on deck that is called, let me get the slide here. We have a segment called Flowers and Feedback. What is your flowers and feedback for Lisa?
Well, my flowers is that she also is, I think, one of the stars of the show. I love to see her when she's activated, as I like to say, when she's, going off on somebody. I think she's at her best then. Yeah, and I mean, on another selfish note, not to bring it back to myself, but she's been very nice to me. She's been very supportive of my account, as most of them have, but her particularly has been very nice to me. So I appreciate that, of course. And I don't know, some feedback, I think this goes without saying, but I feel like she talks about Lenny a little too much to her boyfriend. And I understand that obviously that's divorce is like no other divorce ever that I've heard of, that probably nobody ever will experience. But and I can't imagine how that would feel to be like fighting with somebody like Lenny. Um, but yeah, I just feel like time and place. I feel like maybe she should keep the conversations for her friends and maybe not Jody. Just I know he's very supportive and he seems like such a great guy, but I feel like I don't know. I would hate for this relationship to go by the wayside over too much Lenny talk.
Okay, Lisa. We don't know much about Lisa.
Yeah,
I mean, going back in the old seasons, like, we know the now, but we don't really know, like, a little bit of the backstory. But she definitely deserves her flowers. And I've said that before, not just obviously she had the big season, with Lenny's hot mic moment, and it really rallied the girls together, which I really love to watch. That season was wonderful the way they were there for her. I also want to give her flowers because I think in life sometimes we see people who, however they did it, who have acquired like wealth, especially like, a beautiful woman like herself. And we sometimes prejudge them. I'm just saying, when I watched her, I thought she was a sweetheart, even though she was in this world that does feel like, very detached from, hardworking individuals or whatever. Um, and, she got her ways for sure, but I feel like she was a sweetheart. And if anything, her feedback, because those are her flowers, that I really liked her in the earlier seasons. If anything, her feedback is just how she's juggling with this big transition. It is a big deal. However, the one thing I think she doesn't always take into account is sometimes she speaks in a way where it's like she's the only person who's ever went through this. And she's not intending it, but sometimes like some moments could be condescending adjacent. And it's just like, I think it, but I also think that makes sense, because when you're like really going through it, you put up such a defense mechanism. And I feel like she's so lovable, as I just said. I would love for that defense mechanism to drop a little bit and we get more into like that fun girl. I get that why she would be stressed, but like, I want to get back to that. And whether that's Jody, whether that's her being on her own, whether that's her driving a Toyota Corolla, like, Lisa is amazing. And let's get back to that, but anytime someone's life is, thrown upside down, it's gonna be a lot. No, none of us will, like you were mentioning with Gertie, you go through a thing, no one will know what it's like until they go through it. So I
Right.
don't want to judge too harshly.
Yeah,
Um,
and if I could just say one more thing, completely reminded me that we haven't seen really any of her backstory or any of her family history, and I remember in one episode that she said that she, doesn't have the best relationship with them, and Lenny
mm,
and his family was kind of the only family that she had. And I don't know how practical this would be, but I would love to see a visit back home, wherever that home is, and see,
yeah.
some family connection, some family history. I think that'd be interesting.
And you know what? Not to exploit like the rawness of whatever that was, but more to showcase how she may have fell into the situation.
Yeah,
If there was something that was really rough, we don't know. I'm not even making any judgments, but if there was something that was rough, it does showcase even more how you would sort of be a magnet to all this new world that Lenny ushered you into. And again, she's the mother. She built, she always says, I built the business with him. I
yeah,
get all that. I'm not taking that away from her, but it does showcase when, where you're at with your own home base and your own foundation. Something could come in and it could be, I'm talking about love in that case, but it could be so big that it just takes you somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think knowing that, you're right. We gotta make sure we talk to purveyors, what is it? Purveyors of Pop, the
very
production company, because that really is the feedback. That is what we all want to see with Lisa. And well, I was gonna say another thing, but we'll let it materialize because I got to tell you, I don't think this show's going away. I love that it started on Peacock streaming, and now is at Bravo. But I feel like it's adored by a lot. Sometimes I get a little worried because there's not the biggest push, it seems like, from the network sometimes. But either way, I think the ratings are there, and I think people really love the show. So I hope big thanks for them.